G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video today, I'm going to be doing a fun little exercise I always like to do at the end of each AFL season, and that is building the best possible team I can, but it must include a play from every single AFL club. Pretty straightforward. There is 18 positions on an AFL field, there is 18 AFL clubs. Mix them both together, you can do this video. Just a shame though that when Tasmania, or if Tasmania join the league, this video idea will be voided. So for the next roughly 5.5 years, or whenever they do come to the league, let's make the most of it, shall we? Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video, and let's get on to building this team. Righty everyone, so right on your screens now we do have the layout of the side, and we'll just go through each AFL club in alphabetical order and pick player by player. Now with this team and building the best team possible, I actually want to make it a genuine team. I want players playing right positions, players with the correct roles, the most balanced team possible. That's another consideration as well. Now this is a best 18, obviously there is an interchange bench when making a team, but just for this criteria with a player from every AFL club must be in this team, we obviously can't do a bench, so it's just the best 18. So let's get into it, shall we? Kicking off with the Adelaide Crows, and when you do look at Adelaide's best core of players, the one that easily comes to mind, and especially the most unique player in the competition, Shaun Dawson. His first season as the Crows skipper, coming home with the club best and fairest, and also his first All-Australian Blazer. And as I said before, unique player. You know, especially when building teams like this, he's always a player that has to come into the mind, because not only is he capable of playing that inside midfield role, which he did very well this year, he can also play halfback, and he can also especially play on the wing, because he sort of is that outside type of player, especially with his great foot skills. So with the versatility, I'm going to be putting him right on the wing. We move on now to the Brisbane Lions, and plenty of options here. The runners-up from 2023, maybe Harris Andrews, stick him at fullback, great year he had. Maybe we're the Brownlow medalist of 𝐓𝐿𝐼 𝐚𝐿, but you know, with the talent there is available at the Lions, it is hard to go past Charlie Cameron, one of the best small forwards of 2023, or honestly one of the best small forwards of the last few years. He's just always been such a dangerous player. A few games this year he did get caught out, but where he's been able to get his goals so many times is just from that transition, from those goals out the back, from open play as well, and a very hard player to tackle. So just a dynamic small forward right in the forward pocket. Easy one for the Brisbane Lions going with Charlie Cameron. Now moving on to Carlton, and again, a few options here. Could go with a very good spine player, 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐷, 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐼, maybe even Walsh. His second half, and especially his final series, was superb, but it is hard to go past the Coleman medalist of Charlie 𝐻𝐼𝐷, back-to-back. Another sensational season he's had, pretty much building off that 2022, kicked 81 goals this year. Again, just so hard to defend one-on-one, especially when you do give him a bit of space. He's a very good mark on lead, he's able to push high up the ground. His field kicking, very underrated too, and he's a player perfect at centre-half forward. He takes the marks high up the ground, he can peel off, hit a target inside 50, or he could go bang on off a step or on the run from 55. So Charlie 𝐻𝐼𝐷 at centre-half forward, yes please. Next team up, the premiers of Collingwood, and the player that I've chosen doesn't really need much of an introduction. Nick Daicos, one of the more superstar players of the competition. Now there were a few options I could have gone with, maybe Quaynor as an interceptor, Darcy Moore, great year, but I mean, when you're building a team, you've got to have Nick Daicos. Now, I would probably put him on the ball, given he played more of that role this year, but just because of how the team is structured, I'm going to be putting him on the half-back line, because obviously he's very capable of playing that role. He can also rotate in the midfield in this team, but, you know, he's an absolute star even on the half-back, especially with how he plays. He can get accumulate a lot of the footy, and his foot skills, especially reading the ball behind the play. Nick Daicos, I think, would be a perfect halfback flanker in this team. Now for the next team, the Essendon Bombers, and I think right off the bat, probably a lot of people will be suspecting someone like Zach Merritt, maybe their best and fairest award winner. Maybe someone like a Jordan Ridley in your back pocket, or sort of that third tall player, but I'm actually going to be going for Carl Langford. The reason being is because I feel like a team always needs a third tall. To make a balanced team, you need that player that can sort of, you know, play that third tall role, that can be very good in the air, that can be okay ground level, but can really kick your set shots. And it's all about the balance in this team, and I think Langford is the perfect type. He probably was one of the best third tall forwards across this season, alongside, of course, like your likes of Bailey Fritsch. He kicked over 50 goals this year and was unlucky not to make the All-Australian side. So probably on paper-wise, in terms of talent, probably not one of the biggest names out there, but a player that can play his role, stick him at the half-forward line, be that third tall forward. I think Langford, it's hard to go past a player like him. Now move on to the Fremantle Dockers, and when you really do look at their best players this year, not really too many options that scream to mind. Brayshaw, not as good as last year. I mean, Luke Ryan made the All-Australian squad, but, you know, is he a damaging play? Not really too much. I was thinking Hayden Young, but it is an obvious one. Caleb Serong, their best and fairest winner. All-Australian too. Absolutely loved his year, and he goes right onto the ball in this team. His first possession, or getting first possession ability, is tremendous. Inside midfield craft is lovely. He can quickly get in and under with that small body of his. He plays bigger than what his size suggests, and he can, you know, extract the footy out to your likes of the other midfielders I have in this video in the next few teams. But yeah, Serong as that, you know, inside midfielder. Very, very good selection, I think, for this side. Now move on to the Geelong Cats, and the player that I've chosen is a pretty obvious one, especially with this sort of video. Tom Stewart, one of their better players of 2023. Jeremy Cameron had a bit of injury problems, a bit of form problems. You know, Hawkins wasn't as good as last year. They had injury problems. Guthrie wasn't in the team much this year. Dangerfield was a bit hot and cold. So Stewart, he was probably one of their more consistent players, and in terms of talent, I think you've got to throw him right in the back pocket. Just a tremendous interceptor, had another great campaign this year, and, you know, just in terms of this team, I think a player that can play with confidence, especially, you know, Stewart is definitely that type, but can read the ball, you know, read the footy behind the play so well, and can obviously, you go by foot quite well, but just that intercepting ability, him in the back pocket, easy one for the Cats, Tom Stewart. And now we move on to the Gold Coast Suns, and the player that I'll be choosing from the Suns is no other than Noah Anderson. Again, they're head and shoulders above best player in the side this year. 𝐚𝐤𝐿 Miller obviously going down allowed Noah Anderson to really, you know, just have a sublime season, and he really started off the year quite well too, but did really well in the coaches' votes. The player ratings, he was top 5, I'm pretty sure, top like 6th or 7th last time I checked, so he had a really, really good year, and yeah, easy one really on the ball. I think he's a great all-round midfielder. He's, you know, can defend well, he can two-way run well, he can tackle well, but especially, I think an underrated aspect about his game is he can be a bit of a clearance beast, and he can really pump his legs and drive out of congestion and maybe kick a few goals. He's a bit of a goal-kicking midfielder this year, so Anderson is sort of that balanced midfielder in the side alongside Serong. I really do like the addition. And now move on to the GWS Giants, one of the more entertaining teams to watch this year, and keen to see how they do go next year, but the player that I'm going to be choosing is no other than Sam Taylor. Obviously only played, I think, around 15 home and away season games this year. Injury didn't really help him, but when he was in the side, he was just, you know, maximum impact. And when you just look at the more valuable players of the competition, Sam Taylor is one of the first players that come to mind. I think on paper, he's one of the best key backs in the competition. Still, I think under 24 years of age as well, and just is so competitive one-on-one. So you just stick him at full back and just, you know, let him compete. Very, very good interceptor, and just absolutely adore with how he plays. So yeah, Sam Taylor, easy one for the Giants. Him at full back. And now move on to the Hawks, and another defender I'm going to be going with here. Another easy selection, really. James Sicily. Not really too many other players came to mind. Will Day and 𝐼𝐤𝐿 were also the standout players of the Hawks this year, but it's hard to go past a player like James Sicily. The last 2 years has been one of the more better or more elite defenders in the competition. He moved into sort of a new role. Instead of playing the opposition's best forward, I think around halfway through the year, he moved into sort of playing that third tall or third best forward, and absolutely dominated. He was an absolute dangerous player in the skies, and he's that nucleus on how they move the footy for the Hawks. So when you put him in the team in the back pocket, just him distributing the footy, he loves to take the game on too as well when he does have ball in hand, and, you know, an extremely good interceptor too. So Sicily, got to have him in the back pocket alongside Stewart. Now move on to the Melbourne Demons, and the player that I've chosen for Melbourne is no other than Christian Petrarca. Stick him at half forward and just watch him absolutely dominate. #1 player in the competition for score involvements again in 2023, backing it up from his sublime 2022 season, and he was able to show that he could play that stay-at-home forward. So I think if you put him at half forward, you know, let him rotate in the midfield in this team, can get a few of those centre bounces, but, you know, he can also play that full-time forward role and kick some goals, but just every possession is damaging. You know, very, very good in terms of core strength, hard play to tackle, and can definitely change a game. So a dynamic player on your half forward, you know, definitely one of the more elite players in the competition is definitely Christian Petrarca. And now move on to North Melbourne, and, you know, one of the more few teams in the competition where it's hard to go because they are one of the more lower ranked teams in the competition. But, you know, a brilliant obvious selection here is Nick Larkey. Sticking him at full forward. Obviously an All-Australian this year, kicked over 70 goals and a 17th place side. And, you know, a very, very underrated player. I think he's able to, you know, be very good on leads in the air, can be very damaging, and a really good set shot too. So a reliable goal scorer, I think, in this team. You have a player like 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼, I think a very ideal selection, and a pretty obvious one for North Melbourne. Not really too many options. I mean, LDU maybe, but I think a player like 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 you just got to have in the team, the All-Australian. Now moving on to Port Adelaide, and you know, the first two players that really come to mind is Butters and Rosie, but if you do look at the plays here, we don't really have much, you know, there's no one on the half forward, we only have one midfielder left, but I want to sort of save that selection, so probably not going to be going with Rosie or Butters here, but there is still a halfback flanker available, and I'm going to be putting in another All-Australian of Dan Houston. Love this guy's year, almost an underrated season. I still feel like it was a bit of an underappreciated one because just his ability to drive off halfback was really good to watch this year. Foot skills very good, and especially he can kick a few goals from 55 out. But yeah, just a general, and I think if you have him back there, a good intercept mark too, like him overhead. Pair him alongside Nick Dacos and just watch them two dominate. So yeah, Houston on the halfback line. Yeah, my chosen player for Port Adelaide. Now move on to the Richmond Tigers. We've got a centreman, a winger, centre halfback, and a forward pocket, and also ruckman left. When you do look at those positions, it is pretty obvious. Forward pocket, Shea Bolton, going to be taking him every day of the week. You know, it's, again, I think it almost a bit of a overhated player in a way. I get how people don't really rate this guy, or he thinks he's a little bit inconsistent, but if you do look at the numbers, I think he's one of three only players in the competition where he's averaged over 20 disposals and a goal a game, alongside Dustin Martin, also Petrarca. So, you know, he was still very impactful, I think, for the Tigers this year. And even though they were in a bit of a lower ranked side, I still think he had a very, very underappreciated year almost. And, you know, just an impact player. Every touch is damaging, and such a hard player to tackle and clean at ground level. So you've got him at forward pocket, sort of, you know, that dynamic forward alongside Charlie Cameron. I think when you do look at that forward six now, nice and balanced. So yeah, Shea Bolton to close out the forward line. Now moving on to St Kilda here. Positions we do have left is centre halfback, centreman, a winger, and also a ruckman. Now, when you do look at the ruckman, there is really Marshall, Tim English to go with. When you want to build the best team possible, probably those are the two only plays you really want to choose. Possibly Kieran Briggs maybe as well, but I'm going to be going with Rowan Marshall. Very underrated year. Unlucky not to make the All-Australian, but, you know, English I just think was the bit more consistent ruckman of this year, but still, you know, plenty of praise on this guy. His ability to go forward and make an impact was sublime, but definitely that link-up play down the line. He's always able to take those pack marks. Very strong player in the air, and can move around the ground very well, and good in the hit-outs too. So I love Rowan Marshall's year, and definitely going to be putting him in my team. And now move on to the Sydney Swans, an obvious selection here really. Errol Gordon, definitely going to be putting him in here. Very close to him taking home the Brownlow medal, and won the Swans best and fairest count by an absolute landslide, really. He dominated in that count. But, you know, Gordon's here was a sensational one. You've got him alongside Dawson, two left footers that can change the game. But, you know, Gordon's work rate, his foot skills, his damaging ball use when going inside 50 is very good. And he's a goal kicking player too, so he can definitely rotate maybe at half forward and kick a few goals. But yeah, Gordon a definite in this team on the wing alongside Dawson. So two teams left now. We do have the Eagles and the Western Bulldogs. West Coast, again, similar to North Melbourne, bit of a harder team to do. I think when you do look at the centreman that is still available, probably could go with Tim Kelly, but then the Bulldogs, who do you go with at centre half back? So it's about, you know, trying to adjust a few teams and all that whatnot, and try and make the team as best as possible. I feel like this is cheating almost, but this is a bit of a fantasy team, remember. If these players are all fit, I'm going to be choosing Jeremy McGovern. He only played, I think, 7 or 8 games this year. He hasn't been able to play his best football, or especially a season full of good football, in quite a while now. I think he's progressively going to get worse. But if we're just talking about talent, I'm just going to be going with McGovern. Could have gone Barras, but I just think McGovern is the better player. And especially if you did watch his game against the Bulldogs late this year, you know, that's just what he can do. So impactful in their back half. So I think McGovern can definitely rebound well. Very good interceptor. And you just look at that back six now. You've got Taylor, who's very strong. Sicily Stewart, capable of playing on tools. McGovern, very good interceptor. And you've got Dacos and Houston patrolling the back flanks. Again, it's sort of cheating. McGovern was not good enough this year. Definitely unfit, but a bit of a fantasy selection sort of. If all these players are fit, I'll be going with McGovern for the Eagles. Which does leave the Western Bulldogs, and I did have to leave, in my opinion, the best player of 2023 in this team, Marcus Bontempelli, to close out the team, ladies and gentlemen. What a player he was this year. You know, when you do look at the team now, him as that centreman, you know, he's just a player you've got to have. You've got Sarong in and under, winning the footy. Norenison is that sort of balanced midfielder, and then you've got Bontempelli sort of orchestrating that midfield, and especially on how to move the footy. But yeah, you know, just a sublime year he had, the Bont, and can also go forward and kick a few goals. So that really closes out the team, everyone. So there is a player from every single AFL club. We'll go through it now. Sam Taylor and McGovern as the key defenders. You got Stewart and Sicily can also play as a key, sort of as a lockdown defender, but more of the interceptors and are good by foot, especially Sicily. And you do look at the halfbacks. Nick Dacos, Houston, both patrolling the half-back lines. Dacos can definitely rotate in the midfield and has sublime foot skills. Same with Houston, can push up the ground, kick a few goals, got a great long booming kick too. Dawson and Goulden on the wings, both very, very good players, especially Dawson, more unique player. Goulden, the hard-working player that can definitely cause some impact for the centre. Bontempelli, that perfect centreman that can get the handball receive and sort of get that first kick or get that clearance kick or that kick for the centre inside 50, hitting up a target. Then the forward line, Curnow and Lark is the keys. Langford as a third tall. Petrarca is that sort of midfielder forward dynamic player that can really turn it up. And then your more deeper forwards, Charlie Cameron, getting those few goals at the back, which he's very good at. And Shea Bolton, dangerous player when the ball hits the deck, hard to tackle. And then the followers, Rowan Marshall as a ruckman. And then, yeah, Caleb Strong getting that first position, inside midfielder. And Norenison as the balanced midfielder to close out the team. So there we go, everyone. There it is, my opinion on the best AFL team you can make with a player from every club. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what you did think of my team. Also, would you maybe change a few selections? That's totally fair enough. Hopefully you did enjoy, everyone. Again, the off season, I like to do these sort of videos maybe once or twice a week. So yeah, obviously do appreciate the support, everyone. Draft coming up soon, so I want to get some draft content out on the channel over the next month, so definitely will be on that. But yeah, apart from that, everyone, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy, as I do say again. And apart from that, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.